We're going to build the wall. Don't worry about it. We're building the wall.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a off the field right now, out, he's fired.
A few days ago, I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are. They are the enemy of the people.
In the years since Donald Trump was elected, his attacks on immigration, the press, and freedom of speech have threatened many of the ideals and core principles of this country. Legendary journalist Dan Rather examines some of these American principles in his new book, What Unites Us? Reflections on Patriotism. And the great Dan Rather joins me now. I have coveted your presence on this show for so long, Dan. Thank you so much for being here. Great to talk to you.
Oh, it's great to see you, Joy. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, you know, you start your book because you are an intellectual with a quote from Alexis de Tocqueville that says, the greatness of America lies not in being more enlightened than any other nation, but in her ability to repair her faults. Do you think that that America has shown such ability when we seem to have swung so quickly from having, exalted and electing the first black president to electing the likes of Donald Trump, given his character?
Well, I understand it's sometimes hard to see because there's an ebb and flow to politics. But, the reason I wanted to do this book, Joy, quite frankly, was to give some hope and inspiration about the country in at least some microscopic way. The tone and temper of the current presidency has confused some people. It's angered a lot of people. So we need to keep in mind that we are a steady people. We go through unsteady periods. This is definitely an unsteady period. But if we just hold on and remind ourselves of our history, the 1960s were very divisive, and we finally got through that and steadied ourselves. Certainly the Great Civil War in the 1800s was catastrophic. That we're basically a steady people. And I have a chapter in the book in What Unites Us, pointing out that steadiness is one of the things that unites us. Now, I think we began to see some signs of a new steadiness last Tuesday, not because the Democrats won, you can read it that way, but another way of reading it is the country having oscillated, if you will, pretty far right with the election and what President Trump has done with his elective office. The country is, I think, steadying itself. Now, I do think there's some danger of the Democrats celebrating a little too early. And I'm not so much worried about Democrats, Republicans, or the party. Most Americans see themselves as they want people in office who are doing what's good for the country, not for their party and not for their own political benefit. So, this is one small voice, United We Stand, pointing out that we better unite because that's how we stand. If we listen to these voices of divisiveness, which is basically what the president has been preaching, he did so in his campaign, and he's done so in his presidency, then we're going to slide from patriotism into some form of extreme nationalism, which can lead to nativism and tribalism. And if we go that way, I don't think we will. As you know, Joe, I'm an optimist by nature and by experience. But if we go that way, then we will not have the kind of country we have now. I think that's what people are seeing, and that's the reason I think that in the ebb and flow of our politics, things are flowing back a bit more toward civility, steadiness, and a spirit of let's finally get something done rather than shout at one another, particularly shout in terms of bigotry.
And Dan, this is a country obviously was formed out of the idea of separating from the king, and yet the presidency has really morphed into a very larger than life, almost a sort of personality cult at certain points when you've had a president that's had a strong personality. Donald Trump has taken that to an extreme sort of almost autocratic level in a lot of ways. This is Donald Trump talking to Laura Ingraham on her show about the fact that he has not built up the State Department as the arm that, speaks to the world for the United States. Take a listen.
Well,
the one that matters is me. I'm the only one that matters because when it comes to it, that's what the policy is going to be.
I mean, you started with de Tocqueville. That's l'état c'est moi. That's Napoleonic. I mean, how do you have a country that's united when the president sees himself as almost a king-like figure, and therefore those who do not worship the king cannot possibly unite with those who do?
Here's how we do it. First of all, remembering no president is stronger than the country as a whole. That's number one. Number two is just say no. Listen, in our system of government, the American presidency makes the president both the head of state and the head of government, which gives him immense power, but it also gives him a tremendous amount of responsibility. Americans from the very beginning, we don't believe in having a head of government or a head of state, never mind a combined one, who's seen as a descendant of a sun god or some autocratic figure. And the answer to what you just saw President Trump say some time ago, that, well, he decides all, we don't need much of a State Department, the answer is just say no.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, Dan Rather, it's always such a treat to talk to you, such an honor. Dan Rather's new book, thank you so much, sir, is What Unites Us? Reflections on Patriotism. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you, Dan. And be sure to check out my Daily Beast column along some hopeful lines as well. Finally, the real majority pushes back against the bitter third. That's my current column of the Daily Beast. I want to give a shout out to Black Girls Vote. I had the pleasure of delivering their keynote address. This is some of the swag that I got. It's very cute at their first annual celebration in Baltimore last night. The grassroots organization